My father-in-law tried to buy my wife away from me. Sandra and I met during our last year of college. She was studying architecture, I was finishing up an engineering degree, and we met at one of those campus career fairs where nobody actually finds a job, but you eat the free pretzels and pretend to network. We dated for 2 years, got engaged, got married in a small outdoor ceremony with about 60 people, and a cake her aunt made from scratch. It was a good day. Simple. Real. Ours. Her father, Robert, did not want it to happen. Not because of anything dramatic. No big blow-up, no confrontation at the rehearsal dinner. He just made his feelings known through a consistent, quiet campaign of making me feel like I was never quite enough. He was old money, with the kind of family where the house has a name and the cars get replaced every 2 years without discussion. I came from a working-class background. First in my family to get a degree. Bought my first car at 22 with money I'd saved since I was 16. Robert never said anything directly offensive. He was too polished for that. But there was always a comment about my neighborhood growing up, or a question about my 5-year plan delivered in a tone that made it sound like a test I was about to fail. Sandra knew it, and she handled it. She'd shut him down quietly when he pushed too far, and she never once made me feel like his opinion was up for debate. I respected her for that, and I trusted it. What I didn't know was that he'd been working a different angle entirely. 3 months after our second anniversary, Miss Sandra came home from visiting her parents, and she was quiet in a way that wasn't normal. Not upset, not angry, just somewhere else. I asked her what was wrong, and she said nothing, just tired. I left it alone. A few days passed, and she was still off. We weren't fighting, but there was this distance I couldn't explain. I finally asked her directly, and she sat down at the kitchen table and put her phone face down, and I knew it was serious. She told me that her father had approached her, not for the first time it turned out, but this time with specifics. He had offered to set her up completely. A house in her name, fully paid, a position in a firm connected to his business network, a monthly transfer into her personal account for 5 years while she got established. All of it contingent on one thing. She left the marriage. Now, he had told her she was wasting her potential, that she'd gotten swept up in something that felt good at 22, but that she owed it to herself to build the life she actually deserved. He said I was a fine person probably, but that I came from nothing, and that my ceiling was visible and she shouldn't have to hit it with me. I sat with that for a minute, then I asked her when this had started. She told me he'd first brought it up 4 months before our wedding. She'd shut it down and didn't tell me because she didn't want it to be a thing. He'd brought it up again on her birthday the previous year. More casual that time, just planting something. And now this, the full version, numbers attached. I asked her why she was telling me now. She said because this time she told him she needed to think about it, and she'd immediately hated herself for saying that instead of just walking out, and she thought I deserved to know what her father was actually doing. We talked for a long time that night. What I remember most is that I didn't feel angry at Sandra. I felt angry at Robert for spending years building a slow drip of doubt around our marriage, trying to dismantle something he'd decided wasn't good enough before he ever gave it a real look. He'd never once asked me a genuine question about my life, never once showed up to anything we invited him to with real presence. He had decided what I was early on and spent years waiting for the right moment to act on it. Sandra called him the next morning. I wasn't in the room, but I heard most of it. She told him that she'd thought about his offer, that she'd considered it seriously, which was more than it deserved, and that what she'd realized was that a man who loved his daughter would never try to buy her out of her own life, that everything he was offering came with a version of herself she didn't recognize and didn't want, that I had built something from nothing, and she was proud of that and proud of us. Then she told him that until he could be in our lives without an agenda, he wouldn't be in them at all. He tried to call back twice that afternoon. She didn't pick up. Her mother reached out a week later, apologetic, saying Robert had gone too far and she hoped we could move past it. Sandra told her she hoped so too, but that it was going to take time and that Robert owed me a direct apology before anything moved forward. Well, that was 14 months ago. He sent a card at Christmas, signed just his name, nothing written inside, like he'd bought it and mailed it before he figured out what he actually wanted to say. Sandra put it in the recycling bin and made us both a drink, and we watched a movie, and I remember thinking that this man had offered her everything he thought mattered, and she'd looked at it and chosen the kitchen table and the regular Tuesday night and me. He still hasn't called.